All right, we are live. Who all's in the house? Unfinished Project was here at 6 o'clock this morning. Just Mopar Joe and Twisted Mopar Dennis came in the afternoon. Colleen said that she probably wouldn't be able to make it. I understand. This is summer. There's fun stuff going on. I'm going to be doing a remote live next week. Talk about that a little bit later. Technician Troy's here. Auto Salvage Outlaws. Unfinished Project. Bad Tree Blake is here. NSB guys all the way from Floridaville. Rob's Rods and Streetcars. Justin Hill, how y'all doing? Don the One-Eyed Cat from deep in the woods of West Virginia and still has Wi-Fi. Dean Stevenson is here. Don said it takes him 30 minutes just to get to town from where he is. Sounds good. Sounds like a place people won't bother you. Mostly old parts and rust. Patrick and Buck does it. Danny Boyd is here. New Guy's Guitar. How is everybody? Just Mopar Joe came back to us 2 minutes before saying, all right, Mopar people. That means he's given the blessing on the party starting. Who all else is in here? Junkyard D. Blake is here just editing. Editing is a laborious process. Takes a lot of work. Blake is good at it, but it takes a lot of work. Chris 103 Customs. Mean Street Mopar. How's it going? Mr. Diplomat. Andrew Nelson. Glad you could make it. Colleen Tebow. Oh, now she's circling back in. Said she might not be here circling back. Yeah, you know, just look at me. So tonight we've got Bondo Billy. He hollered at me here just a few minutes ago, cleaning up from the shop, and he's going to join us here in a few minutes. But we'll just hang out for a little bit until then. I mean, this Friday is set aside for you guys just because it's fun. Smoke Wrench Garage is here. Smoke Wrench Garage. Looks like you will probably be the next to cross 500. We talk. My mom is here. Big Mike's Hoopty Barn. Always good to see you guys. Mohawk is here. Mohawk, your moment's close at hand too. Glad you could make it, Bad Tree Blake. When the weather gets this nice, it's tough for Friday evenings, and I get that. Works good for me because I don't have a life. But Chris 103 Custom says 97 more days. That is correct. It's 96 days, 3 hours, 56 minutes. And some people don't like this. Oh, no, it's 96 to go. But I'm not going to sit the entire day before the event with a 0 up there, right? That's why I have 97 up there today. Dust Devil Garage is here. How's it going? Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's exciting times. Smoke Wrench is getting close. So what all do you have going on? I had a channel make a 6-minute hit video on me today. I enjoyed that. I need to share it. He hates it when I share his stuff because he doesn't know what sharing is. He thinks I'm putting his content on my channel. I'm just sharing it. But I'm going to share that one because he just talks about me, and it's a lot of fun. A lot of fun. Oh, my goodness. See, my mom is more popular in here than I am. Brewer Racing is here. What's going on, guys? Are you looking at bringing some 4-speed domination back to Sykeston? You guys put on quite a show. Everybody was talking about the Brewer guys. I got to tell you. Yeah, Smoke Wrench is at 465 and Hunter's at 445. That's right. Close at hand. Chris says, I bought the mic you said to get $20. If you're talking about that little pop voice mic that I use, a clip on, it's wonderful. And I have yet to have a problem with it when I'm using it single versus two people that are mic'd up. Either way, I've just never had a problem. I keep the single in the little felt bag right by the camera. No problems. Works over top of the loudest environment I've ever used it was I was on a podcast where we had a commercial freezer behind us that was really loud. Took care of all of it. It was great. Brewer saying, hopefully, yeah, man, I hope so too. That was cool. That was cool. You know, what's funny is you guys signed up like last minute, and I didn't know what rig and all you were bringing. So most of the guys I knew, but I'm standing there greeting people, and here comes this 2-car trailer with 2 B bodies on it. I'm like, wow, this looks all kinds of promising. Then they get them off and the 4-speed stuff. I'm like, oh man, they put on a good show. Just Mopar Joe saying use plastic gauge for grease. You know what? Part of that video says I never build anything. I've never built anything on YouTube. I've built at least 2 transmissions and 1 engines in the last year or 2 on YouTube. But yeah, I'm gonna find a picture where I was plastic gauging something and I'll put up there. That'll be a fun one. We'll put that up. Dean is talking about grammatical errors. Okay. I could be Mr. Red Pen if I so chose. 38 POS Racing is here. Mr. 500. Tell you what, 38 POS Racing had hardly any subs at the beginning of the year. He went out, he made it happen. He did it. Y'all can do it too. Lots of all-stars in this no-name 500 this year. Well, Mike, it's all of us. It's our content creator homecoming. It's our cookout where there's a track. Oh, yeah. There, all of that, right. I got to tell you, though, the thing about grammar, a lot of people have gotten in the hang of thinking grammar doesn't matter because telephones today, your smartphone does so much correction and so forth. It does matter because now we come to YouTube and the machine doesn't know what to do with misspellings and bad grammar. So now it's kind of, if you want to optimize your videos, you have to pay attention to that stuff. Yeah, white grease fixes everything. It's like Windex. It's not going to fix it. Not going to fix the wrong compression height of piston or a rod journal and crank journal that don't match. It's not going to fix any of that. This Mopar Joe is saying Big Mike is doing 90 Days of Madness up to the No Name Nationals. A link to his channel. Yes. Check out what Big Mike of the Hoopty Barn is doing. He's got it going on over there. And he has launched a campaign that you guys want to see. Beamer and Son Garage. I haven't seen you guys in a while. Glad you're here. Mohawk is saying Windex best chrome cleaner ever. Yeah, it was great. Well, I saw something fly by. What was that? Ain't is a word. Well, now it is because unfortunately things find their way into the dictionary just through use. Some of which there's style, some of which I don't like. Brewer says we have our suspension issue fixed in our clutch line, so the GTX should be on kill. Awesome. Really looking forward to that. Yep, LNA Auto Works is saying, hope y'all are getting them rods ready. Indeed. Blake says, I'm doing 90 Days of Sadness. Why? You're way ahead on your car compared to where some people are. Going to be good to see. Uh-oh. NSB is saying to Brewer, we might want to take some of that action. Yeah, that would be a good match right there. I'd like to see that. Danny Boyd says better than 90 days of hard labor. Some of these guys are going to be doing 90 days of hard labor. I still have a long list of deliverables to get together. One-Eyed Cat says, I've got chat, but no video feed. Oh, yeah, you're on the phone. You're in a situation where you got to choose. Tony's Hot Rod Garage is here. Glad you're here. Brewer says, we can make that happen. Yep, I want to see it. Colleen said, should be home at 9:52. That specific? Bad Tree's thinking of a different big block. Probably not by no name. 400 is kind of a dog. Well, you know how to wake that up. That 400, that is the choice if you want to do a 451 short runner intake and all that good stuff. But on the other hand, run it like it is. Yeah, that's one thing I wish I could impress upon more people. And one I'll just mention right off is Randall, because he was in the last live on I believe it was on Wednesday, saying he doesn't want to come if he can't get an 8 3/4 with a better gear for his dart. I'm like, why not? Because if in 2022 your dart didn't make it, and then in 2023 it makes it and gets a baseline, why not have 2024? It's faster. We just keep, up in the ante. That's the natural progression of things. I mean, don't wait till you get it perfect and then do it. I have made that mistake before. Blake's got images of 512s dancing in my head. That'll do it. Hard to go slow with a 512. It's just so much cube, so much torque. It's just hard to go slow with a 512. Blake says, I'll run the 400 out the back door. Yeah, you don't have to. Blake is not a sandbagger. He'll make it happen. Blake puts on a show. That's something that's just, he's got that gene, and several of you guys do. There are some guys that have this reservation. Oh, I just don't have this hand ringing, and you don't really know where they're going to be, somewhere between I just made it and set on kill and all of this stuff. And that's okay. It's your stuff. But Blake, you already know where it's going to be set before he gets there. Well, this is where it's going to be set. That's out of the nacho, right? They're not known for taking it easy. Yeah, for those of you just rolling in, Billy said that he just got in from the shop just right before live, so he's going to join us here in a little bit, and we'll get him in while we marshal up here. Dean said, would a firefighter be late to a firefight? Sure they are. Unfinished projects at lithium, not just for batteries. Right. Jason says more trophies. Yeah. I like the way the trophies, a lot of them get made organically. One thing that was just so super cool last year is how many people made their own awards and brought. I just thought that was so cool. And we have several doing it this year too. So if you guys feel so inclined and you have an award that you want to give, you are welcome to have it on the table and present it. And I just think that's a cool thing about the No Name Nationals, that nobody else does that. And it's a reflection of our community. Mopar Jeff 604, glad you're here. Whenever I see that name, I always think of Bigfoot Mark's Belvedere. It always just pops into my mind. Junkyard D said there's a Model T and a U-Haul. That right. So Turbo Tom, by the way, Turbo Tom is at 339 subs. He still needs a few subs. He's most of the way there, but he needs a few subs, bringing his Model T. And New Guy's Guitar still needs a few subs. Bad Tree found a 75 swinger in Minnesota with a 5.9 Magnum, a 518 transmission, Paxton blower for $2,500. that's a good deal. Pretty good deal. I mean, that 518 core, depending on what kind of shape it's in, that's $400. The mag, you're close to that even without the body and parts. That's probably a good deal. Big Mike says, I'll be heading to the junkyard soon and picking up some kind of rear end for the Blue Goose. I don't care what it is as long as it will carry the load. I can see Big Mike doing that. I can see Big Mike putting a tandem in it. I mean, it's just his style. Hello, Justin Hill, asking how everyone is. Well, I can't speak for everybody, but I'll tell you what, I can speak for me. It's been a good day. I was mowing all day. Auto salvages. His car's going to be slower than the Model T. Bondo Billy's coming. He just has to curl his hair and do his makeup. I don't have a thing to wear. Well, you better find something to wear before we put you on the screen. It's a Montana car with a title. Natural Duddy style quarters. I can see that. Although a 75 Dart is kind of different. I mean, there's not many people do those. Dart Freak has a 75 Dart. It's got the 518. I'm going to be doing a 500 here pretty soon. Got the core, just working out logistics. Got my converter spec'd out and everything. Justin Hill, you saying I look tired? Oh, I don't know. I don't know why I would look tired. I'm not tired. I just been a long day. Mowed a lot of grass. I got 4 lawns I mowed. I mowed one. They're all mine, but it's just working it out. Mowed 1 Wednesday, 2 Thursday, 1 Friday. Get back here. Auto Salvage Outlaw says might have to get a demon before then. Sounds like fun. Make sure it actually exists. Dylan McCool got taken for a ride trying to buy a demon here, I want to say last year. Yeah, Bad Tree Production saying if J-Bo doesn't get that 75 Dart, someone in the chat ought to get it. It's a big springboard of project. Sounds fun. Got to tell you, 75 Swingers is not bad. When of course, in 73, they went to the park bench style bumpers. The wiring got a little funnier. They got more like, buzzers and warning stuff and goofy stuff in the instrument cluster and stuff in 75, 76, somewhere in there. So, but still, any A body is good. Hey, Road Beer Garage is here. How's it going? Ed's Machine. Quite a crowd. 6% recycled is here. Dean Stevenson said, just slap it on, sand it down. Depends what we're talking about. Danny Boyd says 67 to 69 are my favorite darts. That's most people's favorite darts. But in my opinion, you can't go wrong with any of them. The A-Body Mopar is a great car. Destroyer 1320 says, evening, John. I say good evening, Eric. Glad you're here. Glad you could make it. We're going to have Bondo Billy on here shortly. He'll drop in here in a bit. Jason's Garage is here. How's it going, man? Quite a good game. So next Friday, I'm going to move up my live time 1 hour earlier. So I will be 7 to 9 Eastern, 6 to 8 Central. Okay, moving up 1 hour. Reason for that is I'm going to be at the Williamson Road Cruise in Roanoke. They do it once a year. It's a big strip that everybody cruises in Roanoke, Virginia, and have for probably 50 years or better. But my cousin has a shop right on that main drag. He has a big cookout and stuff. So I'm going to set up live there, and I'm going to sit where you can see the cars going by, and we'll just cover the cruise and see what's about, and we can look at the cars, heckle the cars, whatever you want to do. But I'm moving up 1 hour because the cruise is technically over at 9, And that is a rough neighborhood over there, so you don't want to stay too late. But it should be cool. Should be fun. I was actually in it last year, just didn't even plan to be. I was just going down that stretch of road in the cruise in the van. It was popular. Big Mike's got to feed the pigs and get everything shut down. Yep, I understand. No off-season farm work. Road beers in the shop, getting Walter's engine swapped so I can get some nostalgia national time in. Okay. Road Beer Garage, boy, there's a guy that just made it happen. And I am sure trying to get his 500 subs, the whole Bud Light controversy, that he played that card well too. But he's a make it happen kind of guy. Just quietly got business done. Did a good job. Lots of talent in the No Name 500. One-Eyed Cat says, hello from deep within hillbilly country. The campfire's burning. Don English is at a campfire deep in the woods and chatting on our live. Right on, man. Justin Hill saying, do I fish? You know, I've been a few times deep sea fishing. I enjoy it. I do. I like to eat the fish. I fish. I eat what I fish, what I catch. But I don't know. The older I get, the more I don't want to kill anything, even fish. When I dug my fence post holes, when I would see little worms and bugs and critters, I would take them out and remove them. You know, they don't need to die. All right. And I get it. I get it. Somebody's got to do that. Totally understand. I'm a meat eater too. But it's just, you know, we're all wired differently. Somehow Microsoft likes to tell me what's on YouTube while I'm on YouTube, blocking out over top of the chat I'm already looking at on YouTube. Totally counterproductive. Dust Devil's working on his man cave / live studio. Well, this is not a man cave here. This is a studio and office. This is where all the No Name Nationals business gets done. So when I got to make phone calls, when I got to do paperwork, when I got to do stuff, I do it right here. If we have to have meetings, we do them offline on StreamYard from right here. Blake, are you on the Mississippi today? It's so wild seeing the Mississippi up there where the Bad Tree guys are, because I'm used to seeing the Mississippi being way wider. I've always crossed it there at Memphis or see it in the South. Looks completely different. Ed's Machine is saying hello, 5-barrel Don English. I sent the video of Don's 5-barrel setup to Professor P yesterday. He had not seen that. He's like, wow, never seen anything like that. So Beamer and Son's talking about a CT100 Coleman mini bike, CT100U. Change anything like exhaust air cleaner? You need to look at the rules. Go to nonamenationals.com. The monkey bike rules are right there. Technician Troy's in the house. Glad you're here. Sherry Marie, howdy. Glad you're here. Glad you could make it. 6% says, do you have an exhibition class? Actually, that is a competitive class. That is a competitive class, 6% recycled. They have their own bracket. There's a lot of buzz about those things the beginning of this year. We'll see where it actually settles out. But the rules for that 6% recycled are nonamenationals.com. Go down to the bottom of the page and you will see them. You'll see those. And also for you guys, there's a nice PNG of the logo if you want to use it on something. NSB guys, how goes it? I know you guys are always working on something interesting down there. Doing your tire change or tech. I always like it when guys who work in different businesses, different industries, they'll send me pictures of stuff they're working on, things that even have nothing to do with cars. Like I know that Lee has from NSB Customs has sent me pictures of where they're working on tire changers and stuff before. That's pretty cool. Cope sent me one today of machining on a valve body on the CNC. It's wild watching that thing work. Most of the old parts, and Russ Patrick says the first thing I would want to change would be the cam. T's Good Time Garage, glad you could make it. I like that we have a culture in here where everyone greets one another. That is a really cool thing. I see a lot of live streams where the people are just there and the folks on screen don't engage with the chat and the chat doesn't engage with each other. And to me, that is just missed opportunity. This time is blocked off so that we can all be together and do this. And I have slacked on guests this spring for different reasons, but I have some good guests in the hopper. I have had to push back just a little. That's okay. We're starting to phase them in now. Part of which is working on that house. I'm 80 miles away, and Friday's my day. Anything causes a ripple there. I just don't want to get into that problem. And then the trying to do a live from there is never good. So I thought we'll just get that situation a little more stable and get my guests phased in. But today we're starting to get back to more regularly scheduled guests. I have some really good guests coming too, by the way. "6% the rambling man, shambling man." Indeed, he is. Danny Boyd says heads are the best mod. I have the GT40Ps. That's a very popular Ford head. I don't know much about them, but I know Ford guys sure do like them. Patrick was out in the shop cutting on stainless steel headers and making an alternator adjusting bracket. This weekend, I hope to get most of the hot side done. So very cool. Patrick is going to a bigger turbo this year so he can break more parts. Battery says the best part about boats is they usually have money and don't work on their junk. I guess the boat people, they bring stuff in. Cool. I don't think I've hardly done any work to boats. I mean, like just little stuff. I have a friend of mine who's a glutton for punishment. He has a boat, a Toyota Camry, a Nissan Pathfinder. Uh, he has to have one of everything, but they're all different makes, and they're always things that are real complicated, and they'll have a lot of miles, so you're having to deal with all the problems, and they're all one off. Like you'll never learn the problem on one car, then have it on another, and it just I can't live that way. I like to have things more uniform. Most of the old parts need a hunk of Mopar engine block on it. Well, you know, if it blows up, we'll talk about it. I do have a piece of cylinder from Big Block 402's, whatever cylinder was that came apart in, Steven's truck. And that'll go up on the wall here pretty soon. L&A Auto Works work today on mine de-winterizing. Dude, it's like the 16th of June. You can just procrastinate a few more months. It'll be time to winterize it again. NSB wanted to do the boat thing, but they found out it was a never-ending battle with salt. I can imagine. The saltwater deal with a boat has got to just be continuous maintenance. Road Beer Garage says, any tips to pre-lube a Slant 6? That's a great question. I've never owned a Slant 6. I don't know why you couldn't pre-lube one through the distributor like anything else. What say you guys? Joe, you ever done a Slant 6? I can't ever recall seeing you do one. I figure you have. I know you've had a few. How about you, Ed? You ever done any Slant 6 stuff? Any tips to pre-lube a Slant 6 for Road Beer Garage there? Rapid Transit Jay's in the house. Glad you're here. Just a reminder for those of you who've slid in here that Bondo Billy will be joining us shortly. And got all kinds of things we can talk with him about. Frank McCart Rivet in F100. You cannot shorten that name because it's just so much fun, just like it is. Road Beer says external oil pump. Like a big pot. Most of the old parts in Rust pulled a 454 Chevy out of a 38-foot Chris Craft, rebuilt it, and put it back in. I said never again. Joe says, I'm trying to do a slant with Ed. I like the Slant 6. They're good hat. In case. Yeah, see, I go to ask the question, I come back. May crash on me. No, what I was saying is Slant Daily Garage channel, Professor P, he would be a very good one to ask. Don't know what happened there. But if I crash out, I'll be back. It's weird, too, because I'm plugged into hardline internet, and yet when it was buffering, I could see the little Wi-Fi symbol on my screen, and I don't know why. Yeah, it's done some good Slant 6s. There you go. Mopars, Mustangs, and minivans. I'm going to have a video drop tomorrow. He wants me to see. Cool. Yeah, Road Beer Garage. Go check out Slant Daily Garage. Ask that question in his comments. He's got some good Slant 6 content, including fuel injected, which is interesting. LNA said, I knew you were a reptilian. Okay. Frank McCart Rivet in F100 says all the wood Chris Crafts are a thing of beauty. Yeah, they're pretty boats, but I can't imagine wanting to ever have a boat. And Blake says, at least when it froze, you look normal, not a goofball face. Well, good, because all I could see on my screen was the little buffer wheel. Yeah, I couldn't see anything. So I'm like, uh-oh. Yeah, I'm so not into boats. Boats scare me. The only thing I like about boats, well, I like being on the water actually, but the thing I like about boats is all of that metal flake paint. Love it. Love that just obscene amount of metal flake paint on boats. That's what I want to have on the back half of my dart sport is ridiculous heavy metal flake on the back half. So I want to put it back black and teal like it was, but really turn up the metal flake. I think it'll look great. Buff Del Campo says, "What about airplanes? What about airplanes? I like flying okay. I hate dealing with the airport to get to fly. I hate everything about the process of it. I hate everything about having to shoehorn in there with all those people and all that. I hate all of that stuff, but the flying part itself is great." Blake says the best 2 days of boat ownership are the day you buy it, the day you sell it. Yeah, I can see that. Plot twist. I don't plan to buy one at all. My uncle, he'd like to buy boats just to get the trailer. Then you got to get rid of the boat. And he's come up with some really creative ways of getting rid of boats. LNA said to this day, never touched a plane. Ah, you're missing out. Buff Del Campo says TSA is a pain. I was thinking about small planes. Yeah, I get it. I just don't live in those circles. I know a few people have small planes. Just see, I don't understand the small plane thing at all because everybody I know has one. You have to stop to refuel so much. You don't get anywhere any quicker. Then when you get there, you don't have a car. Look what rental cars rent for. Looks like to me the whole flying thing is just a thorn. I don't really understand the draw of it. Mostly old Parts and Rust is talking about 3 38-foot boats, a 27-foot Commander, 454s, 427 Fords, and solid flat tap at 283. Right on. The only thing, if I ever had a boat, what I always thought would be cool would be to have a 318 inboard. Now, I know all the boat people will tell me why that's a terrible choice, but I don't care. You know I like the 318. Buff said that my plane would go 400 miles on a tank of fuel, and it would take about 3.5 hours. Okay. But I mean, how much time does it take when you have to find an airport and land and get refueled and back in the air and all that? How much time does all that take? You don't have the flying circus and Goldfinger coming out there on the wing and doing a mid-air refuel? What kind of time does that take, Buff? You would know. I don't know. Danny Boyd says, I'm pretty sure 318s went into boats. Yes, plenty of them indeed. I know they did. I've seen them. I think it's cool. LNA says it has a smooth 4.3. It's a good engine. I'm not into GM stuff. I don't know much about it. LNA would fear being shot down because I went where I shouldn't. You should fear being shot down for going where you should. Aviation gas isn't cheap. No gas is cheap. What are you talking about? I have the opportunity to get a counterclockwise 440 out of an old wooden job. Oh, that's cool. Guess they have a stronger. I don't know. That would be interesting, Blake. Just the autopsy alone on that would be very interesting. What year is it? Buff is saying 20 minutes. Okay. See, I can't imagine that though, because every time I go to an airport, it seems like it takes this immeasurable amount of time to get anywhere. from any part to any other part, and you go here and you wait, and you go here and you wait, and you go here and you wait, and all this stuff. And I just nothing about the entire airport experience is ever quick to me. So that just seems crazily impossible. That could only take 20 minutes. Well, we can say it's very cheap, Dean, but it's not. We've all paid a whole lot less than we're paying now. Buff said, light planes, you got to avoid the weather in big airport areas. Okay. Mopar's, Mustangs, and minivans. Who was I supposed to contact about that master cylinder you're talking about? So there's several options you've got there. You can run the aftermarket Mopar master cylinder. I opted to go with, and if I'd known you were going to ask that question, I've got it here. The Ram Man. They actually recast a 68 Charger manual disc brake master cylinder. They recast a factory style cast iron. There are options that are lighter and will work just fine, but if you're going to do manual disc brakes, that's a good option. I got to tell you, though, those people are hard to get a hold of and all of that. The best way to deal with him is in person. Like if you go to Mopar's at Carlisle, he sets up a booth there. And he's a trip. He knows a lot about master cylinders, I can tell you that. 38 POS Racing says smaller planes, smaller airports. Okay. Dean is saying air is cheap if you keep it clean. I kind of figured it was that angle. Yeah, we can all do our part and then have a country way bigger than us just rolling coal without a care. So it's going to be what it's going to be. LNA's been running E85. Yeah. E85, we'll just see. Its availability is the thing. Buff says, I flew for 30 years and now I drive everywhere. The only thing about flying is, I mean, I'm not into flying for the sake of flying, but if you're going to go to the West Coast, I mean, you have to have an additional week off of work just to do the driving from Virginia. I mean, that, and then the cost too. You're not going to come out better on the cost of gasoline. So, but the big thing is you need 3 days to drive out and 3 days to drive back. So unless you can get an extra week off of work just for the travel, it's not practical. I've never driven out there. It's impractical from here. Daddy Boys is the only flying I've done was in cars. I understand that. Mopar's, Mustangs, and minivans, as I flew for the first time this year, it's not as bad as people say it is. Well, depends who you talk to. It's not bad. I know one thing. So many people don't get their stuff together before they go through airport security. I never have had a problem with that. You got to be diligent. Be smart. Greg McDonald's asking a question that's interesting here. How many 75 slant 6 Dusters came with 4 speeds? Normally I see them with 3 speeds. I don't know the answer to that. I would guess you're talking about an 833 overdrive aluminum case. I don't know those kind of number questions. That's something you would look up. Unfinished project. He's in the wings. He's dropped a comment. He called me earlier. He's lurking. He could be watching, but he'll be in a bit. In it, TSA pre-check is the way to go if you fly a lot. The only reason I don't do that is I do not do fingerprints. It's just a principle thing. I'm not a criminal. I'm not doing them. Let's see. No problem with security. But I'll tell you, you can have different experiences. I've flown a number of times, and it's Yeah. This is Bondo Billy Lost in the Wilderness. How do I start this crazy thing? Click on the link that I sent you, Billy. Click on that StreamYard link. And when you do, I will see you in the bottom of the studio to let you in. Blake's trip to Texas was nutty flying. Yeah, it can be. Some are easy, some are difficult. I agree with that. I remember one time I flew to take a rifle class, and I was stuck at LAX for about 9 hours, just sitting there waiting. And what's interesting is you look out there and you're like, oh, that's where they filmed the movie Speed, where all the bus stuff was going on. Okay, I've seen it. Now what am I going to do with the other 8 hours and 58 minutes? All right, new wave of greeting. Yeah, Billy says he's backstage trying to get launched in there. Got someone checking on me here. I don't know why. I got to keep my text up because occasionally I get things that are germane to the live. LAX sucks. Yeah, it does. It's a boring airport, too. Look, Billy, you want me to send it somewhere else? You want me to resend it? You know what I'll do? I'll do this. Let's try this. Give me just a second, guys. There's some administrative shenanigans here. Oh, let me try this. See if you got that link, Billy. 8 hours, 50 minutes drink. No, not me. ATL changeover is like watching Home Alone 2. Yeah, that's a big airport. If you're going to get stuck in an airport, at least Atlanta's got a lot to do. Twisted Mopar says I don't fly. Well, you don't have to. Yeah, Joe, we'll do that in a second if this doesn't work. Yep, there you go. There you go, car fan. Click on that. Is that the phone you want to use? If not, let me do this. I thought about that unfinished project, actually. That's the formal name. All right, Billy, check this out. I'm going to put the link in the chat, but when you go and you click on this link, you need to make sure you get out of YouTube. But through with my phone, you should be okay. I'll put that up. Atlanta has a great food court. Yes, it does. And the Atlanta Airport Chick-fil-A does more business than any other Chick-fil-A in the world. And very closely behind it is the Chick-fil-A at the food court at Virginia Tech. I actually think it was number 2 in the country back when I was there. Weird, useless trivia. Buffdale Campus says he doesn't like airliner toilets. I have never used an airliner toilet, ever. Not that I have a thing about it. I know it's really cramped. I just Pass. I try to make sure the tank is empty before I board. Auto Salvage Outlaw says, now I'm hungry. We got a good little barbecue joint back home. And when I go mow, I try to work my mowing around when it's open. That place is only open 12 hours a week. It's open 11 to 2 and 4 to 7 only on Thursdays and Fridays. That's it. 12 hours a week. One thing about going to university, they have a nice, food court over at Virginia Tech and all that stuff, but it's just parking is miserable over there. I mean, you use half your lunch break just trying to get to anything over there. They say mow instead of now also. Okay, that sounds bizarre. When you're in flight for over 14 hours, well, yeah, and I've never been in flight for 14 hours. My gosh, now it would be like a transatlantic, or I don't know what the flight is to Hawaii. I don't think it's that long. Unfinished project has a poll up: black, red, or white grease for eliminating rod bearing slop. Yeah, we can't comment on his videos, so might as well put the poll up here. Okay, in Australia, they call Bondo Bog. Okay. Bizarre. I don't like 14-hour flights. I've never done one. Good barbecue there. Not really. The only good barbecue we have here are people who came from, say, North Carolina. We had some South Carolinians had a good joint here, but this place is not known for its barbecue. Better than New York, where they have no clue what barbecue is. They think it's a grill or roast beef or something. Yeah, Joe is saying red high temperature grease for your rod bearings. So the question is, how many seconds is it before the pressurized oil system washes the grease off? Or I guess you have to not know that it has one to even talk about. Oh, man. Yeah, see, Buck is saying red all day. Auto Salvage Outlaw red. Yeah, there you go. What do you think? Red on the front and the back and the sides? Yeah, and Bad Tree says Pam cooking spray. There you go. I can tell you what I think, guys. I think we're missing the boat. I think we should use like a truck bed liner and just roll it on the bearings. And then we'd be good to go. I need a big plate of barbecue. Yeah, that doesn't sound bad at all. Yeah, we had one good barbecue joint here and it closed up. Battery saying Kentucky. No, Kentucky. If you want the best tutorial I've ever seen on barbecue, go to YouTube. And one of the mods wants to post a link to this. It's really good. Rhett and Link have a song called it's called the Barbecue Song, and I think it's a classic. They're both from North Carolina. They know what barbecue is. I think that's the best tutorial on barbecue I've ever seen. Rhett and Link, the Barbecue Song on YouTube. I've had clients come here from up north and they don't understand what barbecue is. Like, we'll have barbecue for lunch, and they're like, "Oh wow, that was barbecue." Yeah. So then I'll send them that. They're always in awe. Red has clearance adjusting properties, just saying. Oh my goodness. Well, Unfinished Projects is a serious question. What's cheaper per ounce, polyester body filler or JB Quick? That's a good question. Which can you sand it? That's a great question for Billy. Joe says next time I'm in Clarendon, they'll get you the best barbecue in the South. Joe, next time I'm in Clarendon, I'll be lucky somebody doesn't steal our lunch. It happened last time I was in Clarendon. No fooling. Our lunch got stolen when I was in Clarendon. Uh-oh. Got a ring at the doorbell. I'll give him a minute to get settled. I can see you, Billy. I'll give you a second. You look kind of like your thumbnail where you're coming in from the side. I'll give you just a second. And I'll let you in. Can see the top of your head. Mexican Speck is here. Raker meant to say hi. 4 fried chickens and a Coke. We actually have a really good pressure fried chicken joint over in Radford that does really good stuff. They deep fry their chicken and biscuits. They fry the biscuits and serve them with honey. It's good stuff. Billy is just a little can see at the bottom. You want to flip your phone, or you're in landscape, you want to try to flip it forward and back? This actually works for me. I think it's funny. Do you want to go that way, or you want to try to flip your phone up? All right, let's do it. Welcome. I think it's funny. You want to go that way? You want to cut your YouTube browser?
I don't think I can change it.
All right, let's do it. Just mute it. Just mute it. Cut your YouTube browser. You can watch it. You just can't listen to both.
Where's the settings on this thing, John?
There you go. Well, if you're on your phone, you got to just turn it. You got to turn your phone gangsta. There you go. Okay. Now we're talking.
It's got to be in the what you call it, portrait mode.
There you go. These are the these are the trials of getting in your live streaming world. There's where the birthday live stream went down right there. That's where Billy and Misinformation's birthday live stream, the belated bash, happened.
I told you I didn't know how to do this stuff.
Well, this is good because we watch you ace all this body work, but you see, you're gonna figure this out too. Henry's Hot Rod Garage, how you doing? You got it, man.
Is that it?
I think you got it. Okay. Welcome.
Well, I can't read anything.
That's okay.
Comments. So
we'll pop them up on the screen.
I can't read anything. Can't see a thing.
No problem. We'll put questions up on the screen. Anybody got any questions for Billy? Now is a good time to ask. You know that you've got to be in the top 2 most requested guests I've ever had. You and Steve Magnante have got to be the 2 most requested guests I've ever had for here.
Who's the other guy?
Steve Magnante. Hot Rod Magazine.
What kind of magazine?
Hot Rod Magazine.
Hot Rod?
Yep. So the guy with the glasses, got the thick framed glasses at Hot Rod, that would be him.
I'm gonna turn you up a little bit here. I can't hear you very good.
Unfinished project. He's asking you, does that shirt say Bondo Billy?
It says Bondo Billy. This is
right on.
This is my troll stomping shirt.
I gotta tell you, the thing about your channel that's so cool is you just have the perfect storm of engagement from people who love it and hate it. And most people, of course, love it, but you have just the right amount of troll, engagement that really drives it. It's great.
Well, I knew before I even started the channel that I was going to have lots of trolls because of the way I do things.
Right.
And I was, thinking about I got diagnosed with the eye disease, so I was thinking about starting a channel, and so I started watching other channels, and I really liked the Jerry on Lakeside Auto Body because he's old school, and I like the way he does things. And so I'm watching him, and these resto clowns, like I call them, come on his channel and start trolling him, telling him putting Bondo on bare metal causes rust, and that just infuriated me. And I wasn't having that deal. I started a channel just because of that, because that's an old school body man that knows how to do stuff. These young punk kids coming on his channel and telling him he doesn't know how to do stuff. So that's just too much for me.
Well, you've got the magic formula. I don't think I've ever seen anybody else. Dudes with Wrenches and you have probably the only two channels I've seen get to 100,000 subs in the span of 6 months.
I certainly wasn't expecting that. I thought I'd do okay, but honestly, the truck where I put a fiberglass filler in a hole, people thought it was a bullet hole, and that just made it blow up. I mean, it was at like 40,000 views back in February, and I noticed I was getting a mix. I was getting a mix of trolls and people saying different ways to do it. I was getting trolls, and I was getting helpers, telling me how to do it right and all that. And I was getting some people that said that was good. But the most part was people saying, that's not a rust hole, that's a bullet hole. He took a wrong turn in the hood and whatnot. But I saw there was enough trolls on there that I put out an invitation to the trolls to come dump on my work. And it was at 42,000 views. And at 3 weeks, it was at 3 million views.
Wow.
So that invitation to trolls was all it took to send that thing skyrocketing. And so it sat there, and it made it up to 4 million views, 4,050,000 views. And I did another truck where I was putting the fiberglass filler on a fender, and that one went over 1 million and was climbing, hard. And it restarted that first one. So it went from 4,050,000 on up to over 6 million now.
Wow.
And who knows why they do the things they do, but it took off again and got another 2 million views. And then I was playing around with tape. I just trying to figure out what I was going to do on that Cutlass show car hood. I was going to do some kind of fancy stripe or something. I thought, well, I probably won't do flames, but I'll lay out some flames for people to see somebody laying out flames. So I took my tape and I laid out the flame pattern, and that deal shot. It's almost at 4 million views now. And I think people are getting mad at me because I hadn't actually sprayed the flames yet. I got a lot of comments saying, you need to finish it. You need to spray the paint on it. And I wasn't going to do it anyway, but now I got to do a flame job so that I don't make my flame fans mad because they wanted to see the finished product. But that's okay. I don't mind doing a flame job. So we'll get on that. I just had a bunch of irons in the fire, and I'm trying to get the show car finished, and things keep going wrong. I put the candy on too fast, to put the coats on right behind each other too fast. Like I gave them 3 or 4 minutes. I should have gave them 10 minutes. And it wrinkled up, caused me all kind of trouble. I'm still messing with that. So I should be putting the final clear coat on that thing this weekend and get it ready for show. And we'll take it out to the park or something when it's all done, real nice photo setting or shoot setting and shoot a nice video of it. Put some of them starlight filters on it where the sun sparkles off it and stuff like that, real fancy. But, it's coming. I've had a lot of questions about finished cars and stuff. Well, I got lots of cars in the making, but, the last show car I finished rolled away about a month ago or maybe a month and a half ago. So I've got more coming. It just takes time.
Well, I do want to thank you for taking time out of your Friday evening to be on here. I don't know if you've gotten the questions on your channel, but I've gotten a lot of them over here. When are you going to have Bondo Billy on? I've had that one at least a dozen times over here, so I figured they might ask you too. But we really appreciate you taking time out of your Friday evening to come join us.
That's no problem at all. And a lot of I'm not reading the comments, but I'm sure there's a lot of guys on there that I yuck it up with, back in that time.
Yes.
All the Mopar guys are No Name Nationals big fans, and so I'm always funning around with them, but not just Mopar guys. There's, Auto Salvage Outlaws. He's a Ford guy, and you know, uh, it's the Chevy guys. I can't put a name on a Chevy guy. Why is that? Do you know Chevy guys?
Yeah, you're asking the wrong person to put a name on a Chevy guy.
Yeah, I can't think of it. I mean, I like Chevys just as much as any other, but I just can't think of a Chevy guy. I had my little fun thing on my live deal where I had just Mopar Joe and Adam from Hoosier
Right.
Garage in the hair contest.
Yes.
But I put up some bald guys for the runners up. They were all Ford guys, the I Spider Garage and who was the other one? Oh, Two Hacks Garage, Jeff over there.
Mm-hmm.
They got the shaved heads, so that's why I used them for the fun and games there. But I couldn't think of any Chevy guys except for, there's like what's that? James. He's working on a
James and James.
He's working on a 56. No, it's either 56 Nomad or 56 Wagon. He's an older guy, James. I can't remember the name of his channel off the top of my head, but I thought of him as a Chevy guy, and Rusted Junk Garage, I think, is another Chevy guy. Got that like pristine 57 Chevy that looked like it just rolled off the assembly line, but he's an old guy too. So I didn't have any young Ford guys, young Chevy guys to put in my little skit there on my live deal because I just can't think of. I'm working on a lot of Chevys. I got the 69 pace car Camaro, and I got another 69 Camaro coming from Tulsa that I picked up picked up the job out at the Mecum auction. I've got Cadillacs. I got 2 Eldorados going. I got the 67 Eldorado that I put up on my community page a few months back. I'm getting ready to start back in on it, and I'm just finishing up the welding job I did on my buddy's Eldorado 70 model. But
if you ever need help corralling any of these channels, let me know because I got the book. I got the book with all of them in here. So
you wrote the book?
I'm the registrar for the No Name National. So these characters, I can help get you in contact with them if you need. By the way, because I've had some weather blinking out my connection here. If I go away, I'll come right back. Don't worry. Just hang out.
Okay.
But I'll be right back if I do. Got some questions for you. One, Bad Tree Productions. If you want to be hooked up with any 3M stuff, like a care package of 3M paint supplies, let Bad Tree know. Just let me know. Well, they've been known to do that.
No body shop does things without 3M. I mean, that's a staple of the industry.
Bad Tree is known for that.
I have my misgivings with 3M stuff, like their yellow tape and their red sandpaper, but they make fantastic products in general. Like I love the Cubitron grinding discs. They outlast all others by leaps and bounds. 3M's obviously the one that came up with the cups, the disposable cups for painting, where I shouldn't say that you don't drip paint all over your car, because I put the lid on wrong and dripped clear all over the trunk of my show car. That was another problem I had with it, but that's what happens in paint and body shop. Stuff goes wrong. Even when you got all the right stuff, you still have stuff go wrong. And learning how to deal with that stuff that's going wrong is half the battle. But yeah, as far as the 3M stuff goes, I'm all for care packages. I got this here Chinese tire inflator that was sent to me that I was powering my iPhone with a minute ago, charging it back up because I had it on the tripod and I didn't have my extension cord. I didn't know where extension cord was, but they sent me that. And now Astro Pneumatic Tools, I'm a fan of Astro Pneumatic, so they are sending me all kinds of tools. They sent me a big box of paint guns, one of each of their Euro style paint guns, which I had one back in the 90s and was happy with it then. So I'll be using their tools off and on through videos and stuff, because I'm a believer in promoting the companies that you believe in. Obviously the tire inflator from China, it worked good, but I don't know if it's going to last or anything like that. So I can't get 100% behind something that I haven't actually used in the field for a long time. but I was using Astro-Pneumatic tools since 1981, and they last and they're inexpensive compared to tool truck. Well, actually, all the tool trucks, including Snap-on, carry Astro products on their truck. They're good tools. So it's kind of like the 3M. I mean, it's good stuff, and they might have a bad thing in the mix somewhere that wasn't that good, but for the most part, everything they make is high quality.
Guys, I'm kind of holding a little bit of a queue on the chat. I'm going to get there. It's not exactly real time, but sit tight. So I've got a few questions for you over here, and I got a few I'd like to ask you too, if it's okay. Just Mopar Joe has a question for you. Just Mopar Joe and his mane of hair. Billy, I've got to paint a hood soon. It's is it Nason, Nason, Nason single stage? I'm in Arkansas. What thinner do you recommend for the humidity?
Single stage metallic?
It's a good question. I've got to see a follow-up. I'll get it.
That's the most important question of all for that.
Okay. Well, we'll see if he gives a follow-up.
Slow if it's metallic.
Unfinished Project has a question. Would you use JB Quick as spot putty?
No. It's too hard.
Please tell us why, because we've seen this on YouTube recently.
It's too hard. It's harder than all the paint. It's harder than all the primer. It's
right.
It'll be hard to blend into anything else. You can probably use it as spot putty on my favorite fiberglass filler, Fiberall Light, because it's also hard. But on any other Bondo filler or paint or primer, that JB Quick's a lot harder than those paint products.
So I'm trying to catch up a little bit through the chat. Just have a pretty good queue, looking for any questions.
I won't interrupt you. I'll let you find them.
No, I'm just scanning for questions. I do have a question for you. You said you've been painting. I know you said you've been doing flames for 46 or 47 years.
A flame job is actually the first paint job I ever did, ever.
Okay.
It was 1977, and I had the hood off my cousin's 63 Fairlane that was dead in our yard. And I had my uncle bring it to the Votech school because I wasn't old enough to drive yet. I didn't get my driver's license until 78. And so this hood was like a gray color. It was an ugly old dead gray, original paint. And I painted it with black lacquer. And then I had the Hot Rod magazine where they had the how to do a flame job article. And I laid out the flames and I sprayed the beginning part of the flames. The Fairlane had a hood raised part that was like a hood scoop without the hole for a scoop, and I built the flames upon that raised part, and I sprayed the front part of the flames yellow, and then I used clear lacquer and blended the yellow with red and made it a thin orange and sprayed coats to get the orange to fade from the yellow, and then I used the red with clear lacquer in it and faded the red onto the orange. And even the instructor was highly impressed. Of course, he was an insurance adjuster, was his trade. He wasn't a real body man or anything, but he was impressed that the 17-year-old kid laid out the flames that looked just like the ones in the magazine.
That brings up a good question in itself, because I've never really understood how you close the gap between the insurance guy and the body guy, because it just seems like two completely different worlds, and one of them is dependent on the other for making money.
Well, the insurance guy obviously has the upper hand because, if they don't want to pay you for something, they're not going to pay you for it. But I'll give you a good example, and I did get paid, but I was working at a shop in 2014, and I had a 3-stage Camaro, like it was a 12 or 13 model. It was a brand new car, a brand new Camaro, and it had the 3-stage, tint red, candy apple red type paint on it, where you spray the base, and then you spray the mid coat red tint, and then you spray the clear. And we were using Sherwin-Williams, and we had the computer system, and I tracked all, liquids, primers, producers, everything. I tracked that stuff to keep an eye on money. And so the ticket had, we were painting the front bumper and the whole front end, both fenders, hood, and the driver's door, blending into the driver's door and blending into the passenger fender. We replaced the hood, driver's fender, and front bumper cover. And so I, was tracking mixes on a scale. And when I was done painting the car, I had $540 worth of liquid on that car. And the insurance company was wanting to pay $400 for materials. So, being that I had the tracking on the computer and there was no waste, we were able to get our supplement for the extra money for materials. So we got like $670 or something like that for materials instead of the $400 they were trying to give. But if you weren't sharp as a tack and keeping track of those things, you wouldn't get paid. You just get the $400, even though you spent $570. So you have to stay on top of things when you're dealing with the insurance company.
What is the most difficult insurance type of deal you've had to work through? Because I know people have all different kinds of experiences. Some of them easy and some of them really hard.
Well, actually, what you just your first question pretty much covers it. That's where the gray area is on materials, and also arbitrary things like a repair, like a dent. So the materials, obviously, if you aren't taking care of your numbers on your materials, you are going to get the shaft. But the repair times, like to repair a big dent in the fender and stuff like that, well, they don't want to buy a panel because a panel is expensive, plus the labor time to put it on, but they don't want to give you a bunch of money either. So that's where the back and forth comes in. I'm going to give you 2 hours to fix that dent that's got 3 body lines in it, and I'm like, no, it's got 3 body lines in it. You're going to give me 6 hours, and back and forth like that. It usually becomes a happy medium. You ask for what you want, and they offer what they want, and then you have to meet in the middle, like anything else. But,
and guys in the chat, I'll confess, I have an entire live worth of questions because I think some of this is just so interesting. As I'm not a body guy, I'll admit that all day. What are your thoughts on shops like Mako and the Earl Scheib and these guys that have really cut it to the bone on costs? What are your thoughts about that whole deal?
The reason I don't have $25,000 worth of Snap-on tools anymore, I once had scissor lifts, and I had the big triple bank, tool cabinet full of Snap-on tools, and I had Snap-on. I see on some of these channels they have the dent puller tool where it's got the box, and you have a pull hammer, and you hit the button and weld it to the car, and you bang it out.
Yeah.
Well, I had that back in 2002. Bought it off the Snap-on truck for like, I believe at that time it was $690 something, which was a lot of money in 2002. And I sold all those tools when I took a job running the shop at a big Mako, $1 million a year Mako. And the reason I took the job is because the owner of this Mako was pickier than 95% of the body shop owners I had ever worked for. And I was down with that. So he wanted to grow his business. He was shooting for $1.2 million. He'd run $1 million a year for like the 4 years that he'd been there, and he hadn't grown any, and he was wanting to grow. And I, I'm an entrepreneur, and I told him, yes, I know how to grow your business, and I will. I'll come in here and turn things around, and I guarantee you your business will grow. And it took us 2 years to reach $1.2 million, and we rode at $1.2 million. And we also picked up a CSI, Customer Satisfaction Index company, to track customer satisfaction. And the Mako national average was 73%. And our average for the 5 years that they were tracking it that I was there was 96, 97%.
Wow.
We did not have comebacks. I was absolutely the man who ran the shop with the iron fist. I mean, I'm mean to employees, but I don't let crap go on in the workplace. If you put a car in front of my paint booth with shiny spots on it, somebody's getting in trouble. There's no doubt about that. I do not want to ever see a car come back with paint peeling off it around anything. And I had pretty good vision back then. I mean, my vision just started failing here in the last few years. But, I would inspect the cars and until I was sure that I didn't need to inspect them that close. When you hire a new person, you really need to work with that new person. And although the ins and outs of daily business of running the shop kind of kept me away from that, I spent as much time as I could with a new hire to show them their job. Because when you have a inexperienced person, you can't just show them and walk away. It's like watching a brain surgeon on YouTube. Well, if I watch him 15 times, does that mean I can go over here and do brain surgeon on this guy over here? I don't think so. He's probably not going to talk right once I get done. So, yeah. So I'd spend as much time as I could with him. And actually, that came from 1984 or 1985. I was 22 years old, and I had a crew. I had 6 young folks. I would hire anybody. I would hire boys, girls, men, women. But my crew were young because I was so young. Older guys didn't want to work for me. They didn't want to, follow my directions. And I pretty much as hard nosed back then as I am now. If you didn't want to do it my way, then you hit the highway. And so I couldn't keep a painter. I couldn't keep like a seasoned body man. So I had to do the body work myself, and I had to do the painting myself. And I taught these kids. I call them kids. I was 22. They were like 18, 17, 18. But I taught each one of them how to take a DA sander and prep and fix all the door dings in these cars. I was running like my own style of Mako, except at this time, 1985, Mako was charging $99.95 to paint a car. Earl Shive was still around. They were charging $69.95. I was charging $289.95, and we were getting 5 or 6 cars a day to paint. And so every one of these kids could fix dents and prime it and block it and mask it. And like the painter, I would tell the painter, and I would gather the guys and say, when I had a new guy, and I would say, I want to be able to blow this paper on this car with hurricane force wind and not have any tape come loose or anything. You push that tape down. I don't want any tape blowing up, and I don't want to have to clean, paint off chrome and stuff like that. And I built a good crew. I mean, I went through some guys, and some of them didn't make it, but the ones that did were good. And I kept trying to hire a painter, and I couldn't find a professional painter who could paint 3 cars in a row without running 2 of them. So we were shooting acrylic enamel, and we couldn't afford to run cars. You can't hardly repair a run in acrylic enamel unless you let it sit for a week or 2. Well, we don't have time for that. The car has to be run free. So I had a kid that was 18, and he did real good spraying primer. I said, hey, Rob, you want to learn to paint cars? Oh, yeah. So he's excited about it. And that's the other thing. If you want somebody to be good at something, you find somebody that's excited about that job. So I built this booth with my own 2 hands. I went down to Dallas in 1984 at the NACE show, the National Auto Body Congress Expedition, where they show all the paint booths and frame machines and 3M, and everybody's there. And I talked to every paint booth manufacturer there and came back with the conclusion that the way to not get dirty paint jobs is to pressurize the paint booth and to make sure that every cubic foot of air entering that paint booth is going through at least a 5-micron filter. So I had already built the paint booth as a cross draft, so I redid it as a downdraft, side downdraft. I built knife edge filter holders for the ceiling, and I built plenums on both sides to make it side downdraft, and bought 2 new explosion-proof fans to put on there. Like, even back then, it cost $5,000 to build this homemade paint booth. And then I found a 250,000 BTU heater so that we could maintain 90 degrees. And so when I took this 18-year-old kid in there to paint, he had an environment that was not changing. And that's the difference between a master and an expert and a professional. Is, most professionals are in a professional shop where they have a nice paint booth, and so it's not that hard to paint when you have all your conditions always the same. And so I took this kid in there, and the first day I painted the 5 cars, and I told him what I was doing, why I was doing it, and stuff like that. And I'll admit right now that I always wore my mask except for this, but because it was side downdraft, the paint never came near my face. The air is coming down from the ceiling and away from the car. My head's up here away from the paint stream. So I'm not recommending you ever paint without a mask, but I was telling him what I was doing. And on Tuesday, I gave him the gun, and I'd be like, "You're too close, you're too slow, you're too fast, you got the gun cocked, go faster, go slower, not enough overlap, too much over." Just telling him what was wrong in real time. And on Wednesday, I wasn't talking very much anymore. On Thursday, hardly said anything. On Friday, I didn't say much of anything at all. On Monday, he took over as painter and painted over 800 cars before he moved to Arizona with a 98% perfection rate. No runs, no drips, no dirt. And when I say no dirt, we found the source of all dirt in a paint job. We painted 2,000 cars in that paint booth, and you couldn't find a handful. You couldn't count the dirt on the fingers of a hand because there was no dirt. And I have to admit that because it was enamel, some dirt might have sunk in, but when you inspected a car that we painted out in the sunlight and walked around it, you couldn't find any dirt in it. And I'm sure my trolls would call me a liar, but I'm fixing to build another one of those paint booths, and I'll show you what for. I know all the secrets to painting the car and not getting dirt, not getting runs, and being able to teach that same process to youngsters, 18-year-olds, 16-year-olds. Matter of fact, I've got my next door neighbor going to be my first protege for my learning course, learning beginners auto body, and we're going to start at the very beginning and do it right. And I won't say I'm going to skip over anything, but there's a whole lot of stuff that I was taught in school. I went to high school auto body Votech, and I went to Oklahoma State University body and fender class, and was taught a whole lot of stuff that was unnecessary. Didn't need to learn that, and there was already a better process than the one they were teaching. But they have a curriculum and they stick to it. And I'm going to make a curriculum and I'm going to stick to it. And the kids I get and the adults I get that follow my curriculum are going to end up being some pretty dang good paint and body men. I can tell you that right now.
If you had to pick out 5 things, 3 to 5, whatever, your list of things that would help people get started off on the right foot to paint cars. Because see, I don't know much about painting cars. Not much. I've probably painted one entire car if you add up all the panels I've painted, right? Like I've painted a roof, I've painted some fenders, I've painted the quarters, but if you added it all together, it'd be like one car, right? I've never painted a whole car. If you were going to make a recommendation to someone like me, what would be your top 3 or top 5 things?
The very first thing would be to learn how to sand correctly. There's all different kinds of ways to sand, and I'm not saying that this one or that one is incorrect, but you need to learn a correct way to sand. Some people like to wet sand. I don't. I hate having water on a car, prior to paint. I don't wet sand until the paint is on the car, but some people wet sand through the whole process, which that's fine with me. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that at all. I'm just saying I don't like water, but makes a mess and gets that sanding sludge down in your jams, and you get that sanding sludge on your hinges, say, and all the springs and the pins and stuff in your hinges. It dries up, and then it's hell to get that stuff off there. So I don't like to get that kind of mess on the car. And if you're working in the shop and it's November and it's 20 degrees, well, do you want to get a bucket of water and go sand on that car in your shop that's 65 degrees, or the car's temperature of the metal, it just came in, you got to do some wet sand on it, and the temperature of the metal is 40 degrees. I don't like having water around. So, but anyway, the answer to the question was learn how to sand properly in whichever method you choose, but find a approved method of sanding and do that. And then the second thing would be to learn how to handle a spray gun, because you're going to have to be spraying primer and sealer and base coat and clear coat. You might have to spray adhesion promoters and sealers and epoxy primers and different kinds of primers. So you need to know how to handle a paint gun, and that's my very first lesson will be how to apply products to a car, how to use a spray gun to apply the different products on a car. The overlap, the distance, the speed, all that. I'm going to teach how to do that the easy way. I'm not going to give you any hints on that. I've seen all kinds of stuff on the YouTube about how to spray paint, but believe me, mine is way easier than any of those. And you'll learn to paint way faster than anything that I've seen on any channel. And I've watched lots of channels on how to paint a car and all that. Well, your help is coming, John. I'm going to make you a master painter.
Oh, speaking of that, I got to do it, guys. I've got to do it because I just want to horrify Bondo Billy. I've got to show him my daily. I don't know if you can see this. I drive. That's my daily driver right there. This is what happens when you have a peeled up paint job and somebody attempts to start painting it and just stops.
It looks cool to me. Of course, it's
the
little bitty. I can't see anything.
The top is Flex Seal. The front clip is Krylon, and there's 9 eagle stickers on it. And the wheels, I believe, were rollered in black.
That's what we call custom.
It is very custom. I want to live long enough to paint that van. But I just had to do it. See, you can tell I'm not a body man because I roll around in that. Nope, it runs great, but it looks rough.
You were talking about the Mako. There's a lot of Makos that give other Makos a bad name. Not every one of them is good,
right? But
not every one of them is bad. And there's nothing wrong with the paint they use. My cousin, who went with me to the Mecum auction, I painted his Land Cruiser in 2013 or 14. I'm not sure which, in one of those 2 years. And he had the same clear. I used the same clear on that Land Cruiser, Toyota Land Cruiser. And I used the same clear that I'm using now, the FC 720 from Finish One. That's a subsidiary of Sherwin-Williams. Okay, well, that was 10 years ago, roughly. Well, he doesn't take care of it. He admittedly, doesn't do anything to maintain the paint, and the paint still looks great, except for on the hood on one side, it's starting to turn white. The clear coat's starting to break down from the sun. But it's an economy clear, and that was 10 years ago. And if you're expecting an economy clear to last 10 years, well, you don't know anything about paint. And so if you have another guy that used that same clear in 2004, and I've got his truck up on a deal. We painted his truck 2004 with that same clear, and it still looks fantastic. It ain't dying anywhere because he takes care of it. He washes it, waxes it, and all that. So 19 years for an economy clear to last not only says something about the product itself, but about the applicator and the process that was used to put that clear on there, to put that paint job on there. So that's what I've been trying to iterate on my descriptions of things, is that the things that I do, while they might not look professional or expert, they're time tested. The guy with the truck, the bullet hole, Bondo in a hole, which is Bondo, it's fiberglass. I did the same thing to the 19-year-old paint job truck. I fixed a hole in the extended cab Chevy pickup, down in the cab where they rust out down the bottom. I beat the hole in with a hammer and ground it, put the rust killer on it, and put the fiberglass on it. 19 years ago, it's still there. So how long, this Dodge truck, the whole bed would rust away before my fiberglass would fall out, because it's not my fault that rust hole's there. It's Dodge or Chrysler Motor Company's fault that rust hole's there. I didn't cause it. I fixed it. But, I got dozens, thousands of trolls. I got 82,000 likes. So 82,000 people thought I did a good job on that. But, I got thousands of trolls. So you can't please everybody. But,
no.
Too many experts that never did anything. They never done anything, but they're an expert.
Oh yeah. We've all got them. You can't have a successful channel without having some haters. It's just not possible.
Oh, well.
I have people who don't like this shirt. I have it in the studio. It says "Doing is greater than dreaming," because at some point you got to make it happen.
I got Adam from Hoosier Garage. I got him mad at me because I told him that I couldn't take his lighting. He had a light overhead, and it was like it was whiting out the whole picture. I couldn't see him. I couldn't see what he was doing, and he thought I was trolling him. But no, it was because I couldn't see. But little things like that. I'm happy for somebody to point out something that is a help, especially if it's a help to the other viewers. Like, I wear the bandana when I'm sanding. Well, I have to be honest. If I wear an actual mask while I'm rubbing that Bondo so hard, I'm going to stroke out and die. I'm not kidding. I cannot have that mask restricting my airflow while I'm working so hard. And I'm sorry if that dust is getting in there and doing damage too, but it's which one is worse, dying or breathing dust. I can't stroke, from being overheated because I can't get enough breath in. So I wear the bandana to keep the majority of dust from getting to me, and I'm sure a little bit gets through. But if I wear that bulky mask with the big filters in it, well, as soon as those filters start to load up a little bit with dust, well, then I'm struggling to draw a breath. Now, I'll be honest with you, that COVID-19, I got that in December of 2019 before anybody knew what it was. And it had me down for 3 weeks. And I still have funny, swallowing, breathing problems and stuff like that. And so I can't have air restrictions on me. And I'm sorry if it upsets people that I'm not wearing a OSHA approved mask, but that's just me. But I recommend people that can breathe good, get the personal protection equipment that you can get, get it all. If you can wear it. And I fully condone that and recommend it. So just saying.
There's a 100% chance that anything you do, someone won't like.
Yeah.
There's absolutely no chance that everyone will like what you do.
That is true.
Just Mopar Joe has a good question here for you. And Just Mopar Joe paints a lot of stuff. I don't know if you've seen any of his work, but he does a lot of painting.
Joe!
Yeah, man. Reputable work. Just painted a beautiful 65 red Coronet. How much air pressure do you recommend for base and clear on an HVLP gun? Do the cheaper, he says cheaper camera, I'm thinking, do the cheaper guns or whatever take different pressures?
Well, the one that I'm using right now that I've been using on everything you see is a LVLP, low volume, low pressure. And it's supposed to be fed like 25 pounds for base coat and 29 pounds for clear, which I usually do run at about 25 pounds for base coat, but I usually crank it up to about 33 to 35, somewhere around there for clear, because if you run it at the suggested or called for PSI, especially with the FC 720 clear, it's too orange speedy for my taste. It needs to be broken up further, and the higher the pressure, the more it atomizes the paint. That's why back in the day, we sprayed like DuPont Centauri, and oh man, I could take a Binks Model 7 or a DeVilbiss JGA or a Setajet 90, and I could lay glass with that old acrylic enamel because I was running 45, 50 pounds of pressure, and it just laid out flat. But now we're trying to meet the carb restrictions, California Air Resources Board, and all the global warmfulness stuff. We're trying to cut down on pollution in the atmosphere. So that's why they came up with the high volume, low pressure, and the low volume, low pressure. And I actually had what I believe to be the first high volume, low pressure paint gun sold in America back in 1986 at my paint shop. It was called a Sigmo 8. It was a weird contraption, and we didn't like it, and we used it a couple of times. It was expensive too. It was like $280 in 1986, and that'd be like $1,000 now. So I always tried new things, and I have always tried new things. And y'all know if you watch my videos and listen to me, a lot of them don't listen to what I say. They're playing GTA or something on their phone and glancing at the screen while I'm talking. But I just started using FluxCore welder last year in May, and I was like everybody else. I always heard that FluxCore was unsuitable for sheet metal, so who am I to argue? So I never bothered trying it. So I go over to the guy's shop, and he's got this big chunk of a 2012 Camry. It's got hit in the tire, and the tire went back and smashed the crap out of the cowl, and had full dash out stuff. And I put in a huge hunk of a hinge pillar, and he said he had a MIG welder. Well, I get over there, he's got a Lincoln Power MIG 140, but he's got no bottle and no gas. He's got FluxCore wire on it, and I'm like, hey man, you said you had a MIG welder, and MIG stands for metal inert gas. I don't see any gas here. And he goes, well, it's a MIG welder. And I said, well, I need gas. And so anyway, what it boiled down to is if I didn't do it right then, I was probably going to have to wait until it was going to be a big mess. So I thought, well, I'll give it a try. Well, it took me 15 minutes or so to adjust myself to the medium that I was using, the FluxCore wire, and the rest is history. I stopped using MIG that day. I don't use MIG welder anymore because FluxCore is far superior for auto body sheet metal, and that's a good troll thing too. And trolls drive my channel, and they just love to troll me to death about the FluxCore being dirty and nasty and blah 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 blah. And I put 200 tack welds on there. I didn't weld it, and I beat the crap out of it with a hammer, and beat it with a 2-pound hammer 14 times till it breaks. And I said, I don't understand how somebody thinks that's not welded, but that's okay. I'm gonna cut a car in half and weld it back together, and get somebody that's a demolition person to ram it with their car a couple times, and we'll see what happens.
I'm looking forward to that. That'll be good.
In the 1980s, clipping a car, like cutting one car in half and mating another car with it, front of one car smashed, back of the other car smashed, you take two good halves, put it together. Well, I did so many Camaros, like the 3rd gen Camaros, 1982 and up. Mm-hmm. I did so many of them, but I can still tell you that the rocker panel from the lock plate to the hinge plate is 39 3/4, and the windshield post from the bottom corner to the top corner is 27 1/2. And I had an argument with my boss, or the guy that I built cars for. I told him we had one that was wrecked in the back, and it was already stripped down, and we had the rolling rear clip sitting there. And I was like, I can weld that and have it put together and welded in an hour, and you're full of crap. And I said, I'll bet you $100. So naturally, we were sitting there drinking beer too. So anyway, I go out there, and this was a torch. We didn't have MIG welders back then. This is 1983, and MIG welders weren't going to be in body shops for another 3-4 years. So I go out there, I cut the car with a torch. I didn't cut it with a saw like I normally do. I cut and trimmed it with a torch, and I, brought it together. The wheels were on both sides, so I brought it together, used my come-alongs and lined it up. The doors had a little too big a gap, so I took the torch while the come-alongs had pressure on it and cut more on the rocker panels until the door gaps were a little too big, because they have to be a little too big so that when you weld it and it draws together, they come to the right place. So I had all cut, put together, lined up, and I welded it together. I used oxygen acetylene and 3/32 copper coat steel rod, and it took me an hour and 10 minutes, but my boss didn't make me pay him $100 because he was just happy to get another car ready to build. But we did literally probably at least 100 of them in the early 80s.
I would love to see that. That would be so cool.
You will see. I'm going to do
I can't
short
wait.
tail on that Lexus. I have the Lexus IS 250 to put the short tail on. As soon as I get around to it, this show car has literally cost me like weeks of work now. Stuff I could be doing, like things going wrong on it. But I haven't done candy in 30 years, and I haven't done much stripe. I haven't done much painting really in the past 10 years because of my vision. I quit being a retail painter in 2014 because I couldn't see anymore.
That brings up an interesting, because Dizzy Izzy's had a question here. When you paint candy colors, how do you keep the color consistent?
Well, that's hard to explain. It would probably be easier to demonstrate than to explain, but
okay.
Let me put it this way. I watch the metallic, the guys spraying metallic, and they talk about a drop coat, which, back in the day when I shot Centauri and all those, I used a drop coat also to get rid of the blotchiness. But over the years, I developed a different pattern. I use a 90% overlap at a little faster rate of speed. If it's going to be like a fine metallic, like silver or a gold or a beige, real fine metallic, instead of doing a drop coat, I put that. I just put the coats on, the regular coats on, at a faster speed with a 90% overlap, and it still gets the same wetness, but the metallic is more even because you basically are not giving it the space to have stripes. The next coat is almost on top of the first coat, so there's no room to have a stripe. Like, not only do you get better coverage that way, but you eliminate the need for a drop coat or the possibility of the clear coat re-wetting the base coat and making your drop coat sink into your blotchy mess that you created by not having enough overlap. So I'll have to demonstrate that too on the Lexus will be a good one to demonstrate that one on. It's silver, but I haven't painted anything of a high fine metallic, light color recently, so I can't demonstrate it until I get something of that color. But candy is the same way. I spray it with a 90% overlap and a higher speed. Well, you can see me spraying it in the video where I sprayed it, and you can see that I'm going over the same pass almost completely on every stroke. And it might be 85%, but it's a lot. So it's a lot of overlap. Like, I'm not spacing it out much. I'm almost going right over the same spot I went over before, and that keeps from having streaks and blotches. That's the way I can explain it. I mean, you can see it for yourself. I mean, in the finished product. But
yeah.
But I haven't had the opportunity to demonstrate it much because I haven't done, like I say, a lot of painting in the last 10 years because of my vision. And I still.
I'm enjoying what you're doing now.
Pardon?
I'm enjoying what you're doing now. I like the shorts because I get to learn stuff, and I love the way you present them. And I think that's the magic combo that not everybody can do. And it's just it's entertaining. I enjoy it, but I learn stuff too.
My videographer partner guy, we were there in after I told the trolls to come dump on my truck. I hit 4 million views. And so he's like, well, now you need to start working on your long form videos so you can get 4,000 watch hours. And I'm like, well, man, I think that we can get the 10 million shorts views in 90 days. And he said, well, you've only got 2 months to do that. And I said, well, let's try that first, and then I'll work on the long forms. And so at the 90-day mark, I had 15 million views. So obviously my speculation was correct, and now I can pretty much guess when. Now I shouldn't say that. I shouldn't say I can guess when something's going to go good, because I was sitting there blocking on the door on the 49 Chevy panel truck, and I had broke through to Nitrostan, which is the old style nitrocellulose putty that you use to fill pinholes. You know, back in the day, guys would use it like glaze and just smear it all over the place. I never did that. I don't want to have to sand that mess. I only use it to fill pinholes, and small ones at that. If it's a big pinhole, I would use Bondo back when we didn't have glaze. We didn't have no glaze back in the 80s. We had Bondo, and we had, kitty hair, the real nasty fiberglass stuff. Duraglass came out. Well, I'm not sure. Duraglass may have been around too. At the shops I was working at didn't have it yet, but we didn't have any kind of finishing putty, when I started doing Bondo work. But I would use Bondo to fill any big pinholes, and then I would use that red spot putty to fill little pinholes. So anyway, you can put it on before the primer, you can put it on after the primer. It doesn't matter. It's made of the same stuff as the primer I was using on that 49. It's lacquer. So the red's showing through, and I get my camera and I say, okay, this is old school. I show the red spot, and I show the sander I'm using, and I show another red spot at the front. To me, it seemed like a not very interesting video, and I uploaded it at 8:30 at night, and which is not supposed to be a good time to upload it on a weekday. And so I thought, well, in the morning I'll probably, I'll let it go past 10 o'clock and see what happens, because now if a video doesn't go over 10,000, I put it in unlisted, because I don't want it to look bad or whatever on my feed for sponsors and such. And so I get up in the morning, and that video that I thought I was going to have to put on unlisted overnight had 60,000 views. And
wow,
I don't know why. I mean, and it made it to 180,000 views in a few weeks or so, and it's probably still growing. I mean, I think once you pass 100,000 subscribers, the YouTube pitches everything that you put out to see what happens. So they push it a little bit to see if it'll pick up some steam, and it works. I mean, I look back through, I got like 370 videos or something. I look back through the old ones now, and all of them are climbing. People will see the newer ones, like, oh, I'm gonna go see what this guy does, in these older ones. And my older ones are obviously I'm not as enthusiastic about it. And, I sound more monotone. I've got the Forrest Gump so many times. I can that Forrest Gump or Hank Hill or a Cher. I've been
Cher.
Yeah. And all Walter White. People I don't even know. Who's Walter White. I don't know, some TV show or something. But people say you sound like this person. You sound like that's another thing. That's probably a reason for my growth is I give somebody a funny vibe or whatever, because they like Hank Hill or they like Forrest Gump, and I sound like that guy, so they like listening to him. And I had a mother. She was probably in her late 20s and had her 8-year-old daughter standing there in the little circle, that your picture's in next to your comment. And she says, I don't care anything about paint and body work, but I can't stop watching your videos.
I thoroughly enjoy them. I really, and I never thought it's so different. Your style is so different from, say, like Paint Society. Okay. So
Brian, I give him a hard time. I give him a hard time about using tape. So he's got 400,000 subscribers, so he's making a lot of YouTube money, so he can afford to throw around that fat tape to $7 a roll. I can't afford that, so I give him a hard time about that.
What is the place where you probably diverge the most from the more conventional thoughts of body work? Where do you diverge the most?
I don't understand the context.
So just in other words, what is something that your conventional, your professionally trained body man, they all do things a certain way. What's the thing that you do completely different? What's the one thing where you're the most different from your conventionally trained professional?
You know, the funniest thing about that is back in the day, you were supposed to grind the paint to the bare metal always before putting any Bondo on, and you weren't supposed to get any Bondo on the paint at all. You know, that was a big no-no. And I taught myself body work before I ever set foot in a Votech school or anything out of Hot Rod Magazine, and I was blending Bondo into paint, you know, in 1978. And so I would, you know, get my dads or my cousins or my uncles, whose ever car, and I would fix the door dings. I would scratch those door dings with 80 grit sandpaper, and you know, sand around it with my DA with 150 grit sandpaper, and put my Bondo on the door ding and sand it down flat until I couldn't feel it anymore. And I can read Braille on a gnat's butt with these hands. I can feel the teeniest, tiniest thing. And so I can run my hand over something and I know whether it's straight or not. So I would blend it into the paint and I would finish it off in a fine grit so that the primer, which was lacquer that we used at the time, wouldn't, you know, shrink down into stuff. You know, if you have bad scratches, your primer that is curing and shrinking will shrink down into those scratches. So, you know, I knew how to do it. So when I did it, it turned out right. When somebody else did it and didn't get rid of their scratches and stuff, it, you know, it was a nasty mess. And that's why the, you know, body shop owners and stuff would be mad at them, because if they did it wrong. Well, they didn't want me doing it either because they'd never seen anybody do it right. So they wanted it done the right way by grinding down the metal. Well, now here, fast forward to the 21st century, now we can't put Bondo on bare metal because it's the benzo blah blah in the hardener is going to cause rust on that metal. Yeah, right. That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. The hardener in Bondo is going to cause rust on the metal. That's just plain stupid. And I don't care who hears me say that. They can come. They can come and, you know, come at me, bro. Yeah, that's the dumbest thing. And that's why I was mad about Jerry at Lakeside Auto Body. He's old school and he grinds it to the metal, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. It's perfectly fine to grind it to the metal. That Bondo's going to stick if you grind it clean. You get the Bondo on there before it starts surface rusting. You know, don't grind it and then come back next week and put Bondo on it. You better grind it again. But to say that you can't put Bondo on bare metal is just plain stupid. I'll just leave it at that. That's the diverging between, you know, what is the norm or whatever that I saw most is that, you know, we changed from adamantly grinding to the metal to adamantly not putting Bondo on metal. And I've always been okay with putting Bondo on metal or properly prepared paint, with the exception of if you know that it's like a repaint and you know that it's a weak repaint, like they didn't do a good job of prepping it, but you don't want to put your Bondo on top of paint that wasn't properly prepped for. Like I'm not scared to put Bondo on a paint job, a repaint job that was done well and, you know, sanded good, because you can tell when you sand through the paint, if it feathers good, you know it's bonded to the paint underneath. So it's okay to put your Bondo on top of that. And like I say, you just need to finish your body work down to a fine grit, which I normally, you know, I don't block Bondo or paint. When I say block, I'm talking about making it straight. I don't do that with fine grits like 320 and 400. You're going to make ripples in your paint. I stop blocking for straightness at 150 grit. I don't go any higher than that numerically, like to 220. 220 is pushing the outer limits. I mean, yeah, okay, maybe a little bit of primer saying the 220, but yeah, I don't. I stop straightness blocking at 150, but I do take my Billy stick, my little wood stick, and I wrap 320 around it and block lightly before the final primer. I'm not trying to make it straight. I'm just trying to get rid of the 150 scratches. So I don't push hardly at all. You see me using the stick. I'm
Right.
using one hand and just skimming across the surface and long strokes, and no X patterns or anything like that with both hands, because when you do that X pattern with both hands, you're digging in. I don't care what you say, you're digging in. You're making X patterns. I don't want X patterns in my paint job. I had a guy I was working for. I did a 70-mile GTO. It was a badass car. It had twin turbos, and I had it finished. I had Sherwin-Williams top of the line primer on it, which dries to a shine. You could look down the side of it. It was dark purple primer. You could look down the side of it and see it was absolutely perfect. It didn't have a flaw or a ripple in it. And he just adamantly wanted him and his brother to block it one more time with 320. I said, Carl, I'm going to hand sand it with 600 and paint it. It's going to be perfect with my bare hand. It doesn't need a block. Oh, I don't feel good about that. So they block it. I paint. I wet sand it after they block it with 600, and I paint it, and you can see the patterns where they sanded it. And I was so mad that I almost quit. And he knew how mad I was. He was positive. Ken, I'm sorry. Ken's my real name, by the way. Ken, I'm sorry I ruined the paint job. And I said, yeah, I'm sorry too, because it would have been beautiful if you hadn't done that. And I asked you not. I was mad. I was fit to be tied. So anyway, they tell me, you don't sand with your bare hand, you'll put finger tracks in it. These fingers know what they're doing. I'm not putting finger tracks in anything. I'm making it ready for the master's paint job. If the master's hand doesn't touch it, it ain't going to be a masterpiece. Needless to say, you can see.
I love it.
I get worked up about it, but I think it's more funny than anything. And when I go on like that, they think I'm mad, but I'm not. That's just the way to get the point across. It's a huff and puff. But just like I say, I've said it before, like, if you're a troll and you come on my channel and say something derogatory about my work or whatever, and I'll say something to clown you or whatever, and then you come back next week and you say, man, you did a good job. I still know it's you. And I say, oh, thanks, buddy.
But it's all in good fun. I mean,
if you're going to be a troll, expect to be clowned by Bondo Billy. I'm going to clown you. I'm going to make fun of you for trolling me. But
the
if
way
you say
you
something
handle
nice, I'm going to be nice.
But you handle it in a way that allows everybody to have fun. You're not tearing anybody down, but you're letting them know that it's your channel.
Oh,
and I like it.
I'll be a little bit smart aleck and stuff.
Yeah.
And I got my name. It's my shtick, like Pipsqueak and Numbskull, and you're talking about dumbassery and stuff like that. It's just shtick. They came, they said something negative on my channel. They should expect to get something, some kind of something back from me that ain't positive about them too.
I can tell you, there's a couple channels here on YouTube that when they get a troll in their comments, they'll text me and say, hey, check this out, because they know what I'm going to do. I'll come over there and do the dirty work for them and rough them up and have a little bit of fun with them. I'm not kidding. And you all know who these channels are, okay? But to me, it's fun. Like, I love taking these scam emails and just having a ball with them. I've had scammers literally helping me reprogram a TV remote before. I can really make them dance, and YouTube can be that way too sometimes. It's fun if you want it to be.
Well, what it boils down to is human nature. And when I was 22 years old and I had those kids, they were all teenagers, and I knew how I didn't like the boss condescending to me when I was working for somebody, or I really didn't like getting my ass chewed if I did something wrong, even though I probably deserved it. I didn't like it. So, I'd hire a new kid and I'd work with him for I would work up to 13 days with a new hire, because at that time in Oklahoma, the unemployment law was if you worked for a place for 14 days, you were eligible for unemployment. And if we fired somebody on day 15, well, then we'd have to pay unemployment. We had to pay half their unemployment. So I would tell the kids when I hired them, I say, look, you got 13 days to learn one of these processes that we do here, be good at it, because you won't be here on the 14th day if you can't do one of these things I'm going to teach you. And normally, I would know enough in the interview to hire somebody that could make it. And so I rarely had to send somebody packing in 13 days. But later on, like one of the newer hires, if they were sanding and they bumped a piece of chrome, put some scratches in the chrome. This was the 80s. Cars had chrome all over them. And I would gather the whole crew, and I would walk back and forth ranting and raving about the money I spent and blah, blah, blah. And I can't have you guys, even though I knew exactly who did it, and the guys who didn't do it knew they didn't do it. I'm like, you guys, sanding this chrome and stuff, I can't have this. I've got to pay $5,000 a week overhead, and I can't have you messing up these cars. And so the guy that actually did the damage didn't get his butt chewed out, and he was happy that he didn't get singled out. And the guys that knew they didn't do the damage, they're just laughing in their head. Somebody did something wrong, wasn't me. But nobody, they gave me Christmas presents stuff. Like, I wasn't expecting it, but my employees all thought I was a great guy because I wasn't an a-hole to them. And that's how you get good workers, is to treat them good. Simple logic, Mr. Spot.
Got one more question for you. We're running a little over my time, but that's okay, because we've got a great crowd in here. Some administrative stuff. After we wrap the live here, I'm going to head over to Tony's Hot Rod Garage. He's on the West Coast, so he has the late shift live for Friday. But I do want to ask Bondo Billy, have you thought about coming to the No Name Nationals in September?
We're actually trying to get the 49 panel wagon painted black, and I told him we ought to take it there in Missouri.
Yes.
So
Sikeston, Missouri.
So that's not that far. So, we're going to paint the panel wagon bright silver on the bottom and Viper blue on the top, but he's been itching to show it for 2 years now. I've been working on it for 2 years. And I said, well, let's just paint it black. It's going to be good enough for black. I mean, it won't be absolutely perfect, but it'll be, nicer than 95% of the other black cars on Earth. So let's paint it black so you can show it. We won't even worry about the jams. We'll just leave the jams with black primer, and that way you can have a part of the show season left to show it. So I still need to weld up the back end of the sill at the bottom is completely rotted and gone. So I've got to manufacture a bunch of metal back there and weld it in, and then I porta power the opening back over into shape, but I'll have to porta power that and hold it to where the doors are open shut right and weld all that stuff together and do a little bit of body work back there. But it's mainly just the front end. I need to finish the front fenders and the back fenders and the hood, and then I can paint it all black, and I'll probably put some cheap enamel on it and buff it out real nice, and it'll be slicker than snot. And hopefully we can get it over there to the No Name Nationals for the show field. I mean, it's not going to be a race vehicle or anything like that, but I had already told him that I would like to do that, because I know, the guys that I clown around with are all talking about No Name Nationals. So,
we'd love to have you.
I'd like to have something in there too.
To give you an idea a little bit, our community's full of personality. These are literally trophies for the No Name Nationals. These are literally trophies that we will be giving away at the No Name Nationals. These are the tops of trophies.
Cool.
This is for the worst oil down award, because Stephen Meyer, Big Block 402, grenaded his engine. Okay. And then this is actual tire rubber from the winner of the burnout competition last year, set in epoxy. So that's the kind of community, and I just think you'll have a lot of fun with us, and we sure hope you'll come out.
Oh yeah, I already have a lot of fun with the guys. Yeah, I wish I could rattle off everybody right now, but my buddy, I will say, Mojo, just Mopar Joe, he's got 11,000 subscribers now, right? And he's at
11,100.
Yeah, he's a Mopar guy, and And I have a partiality to Dennis over at Twisted Mopar Garage. He's been wanting to go to the No Name National since he was a little boy, and I don't know why Mopar Joe got 10,000 and he can't share some of them with poor old Dennis. He does cool cars.
If you know what would help, if you shouted out Dennis on your channel, because Dennis is at 175 subs and he needs 325. If you shouted Dennis out on your channel, I bet he'd get him in no time.
Well, I shouted out for them to touch my tip
That's your like thing.
Buy super thanks thing. Ain't nobody touched my buy super thanks thing. Of course, I did it on my community page, and I don't get that many things on my community page, but listen up now. There's going to be a rap video coming out about touching my buy super thanks thing pretty soon. I got all kinds of stuff coming up.
I'll let Unfinished Project have the last question of the evening. How is the black paint competition going?
Oh, I'm actually going tomorrow morning to my buddy Steve, and we're going to talk about his 55 Chevy, and I'm throwing the gauntlet right then. That's the straightest car ever challenge, and to enter, you've got to do a lot of body work on the car, and it's got to be black. It doesn't have to be old. It doesn't have to be new. It doesn't have to be anything. You had to have done a lot of repair and a lot of straightening on it, and it has to be black to go up against Bondo Billy. You can't beat me. I promise you, you cannot make a straighter black car than I can. So
you're doing a 55
Chevy. Let that be a lesson to you. Sign up. Get your entries in. I don't care if you're on West Coast Customs or whatever it is. You bring your black car, you ain't beating me. You can tie me. You can make one as good as I can, but you can't make one better.
And you're doing a 55 Chevrolet.
55 Chevy on mine.
Looking forward. Unfinished Project said he's itching to get in on this.
Okay, well, that's what I say. You can tie me, but you ain't going to beat me.
Well, all right, man. Hey, now, I want to thank you.
Imagine 50 black cars in a row, every one of them perfect. Would that be a car show?
Be interesting. I don't think I've ever seen that before.
It would be something.
I don't want to take up your evening too long. I really appreciate you coming on our show. We'd love to have you back. I mean, I've got 10 lives worth of questions for you because body work is this fascinating sorcery to me that I don't know anything about. So I think this is really cool.
Well, I told Auto Salvage Outlaw I'd come over and yak with him on one of his lives too. So I'll get with him here in the near future and yak it up with him too.
Sounds good. Sounds good. Well, you're welcome back anytime, but we're going to head over to Tony's Hot Rod Garage Live here. I want to thank you for being on. I want to thank the mods for keeping everything running smooth. And I'll see you guys again on Wednesday with Professor P, and then back here Friday from the Williamson Road Car Cruise in Roanoke live from there 1 hour earlier than the regular time. We'll see you guys.
John. Thanks you guys for having me. No Name Nationals.
Subscribe.
Subscribe.